All right. For those who are out there, both on Blog Talk as well as YouTube, I want to make sure you all can hear me and see me nice and clearly before we get into it. All right. You all are with me. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. I pray you brothers and sisters are with me live and direct on Blog Talk as well. We have quite a few things we're going to cover tonight within a short period of time. We're not going to have a full broadcast as we usually do for the other sessions of Blog Talk. Of course, along with tonight's discussion, we have a few things we're going to announce concerning not only the Academy, but as well as some other things that have been taking place over the past week or so with the church. So those announcements will be made after we delve into this topic. And for those who are both on YouTube as well as Blog Talk, you may have seen we see here, someone says it's kind of choppy. All right, let me make sure it's fine before we get into it. Let me make sure we're clear before we get into it. Okay, some other people are saying that it's clear. So if it's choppy on your end, it may be your connection. Hopefully, it's coming through nice and clear for everyone. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's discussion. As I was mentioning before, those of you who are currently on YouTube, as well as those who are watching on Blog Talk, you may have seen the title for tonight's discussion. And the topic of discussion is, who will stand up for me, or who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Now, where does this title come from? What is the inspiration behind such a title? Well, of course, as the Bible tells us, with everything we do, let us do it in glory unto the Most High God. Just paraphrasing, of course. But I state that because tonight's discussion, like all of the discussions that we have on this forum, is inspired directly from the Bible. Now, to get the scriptural inspiration or the understanding as to where this inspiration came from, we're going to open up our Bibles. Of course, for those of you who are new, those of you who may have not followed us in the past or may happen upon this in the future, or may be tuning in live for the first time to our broadcast. For those of you out there listening, the Bible that I will be using and that I'm about to use, of course, is the King James Version Bible. Okay? And I mention this because you have many brothers and sisters from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different sects of Christianity, as well as other religions, and they may wonder, which Bible do we use and should we use? And again, the Bible that I specifically and that we use specifically in all of our teachings is the King James Version Bible. Now, I'm going to go into the King James Version Bible, and I'm going to open up to the book of Psalms. We know that the Psalms were written by the great and mighty King David, the king of Israel, from the tribe of Judah, as we are told. And as we go into this book of Psalms, we're going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 94, verse 16. It tells us the following: Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Again, Psalms 94:16 tells us the following: Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Now, why are we having this particular discussion at this time? Well, that leads us to the content as well as the context of tonight's show. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? The world is in an all-out assault against all that which is good. As we discussed in last week's broadcast, we went into the normalization of pedophilia and how pedophilia, the spirit of pedophilia, has silently destroyed the minority community. Now, when I say the minority community, I'm speaking predominantly of the so-called Blacks, so-called Native American Indians of North, Central, and South America, so-called Puerto Ricans, so-called Haitians, Jamaicans, so on and so forth. Okay? This particular spirit of pedophilia has silently destroyed our communities. We discussed that last week. Off the back of that broadcast, a demonstration was held this past weekend, which many of you knew of this demonstration, and some of you attended this demonstration that took place in New York City over this past weekend, in which we stood openly against those who have abused children in our community. Okay? Now, I want to double back because I made a statement concerning this particular spirit that has silently destroyed the minority community. Now, I want to make this clear because some people may be watching this and they may say, well, yes, that is true. Pedophilia has silently destroyed the minority community. But pedophilia is not exclusive to the minority community. And for those who would make such a statement, we would have to admit that they are 100% correct. This demon, this spirit, is not exclusive to the Black, Latino, and Native American communities. Communities all over the earth, all over the United States, all over the Americas, all over Africa, all over Europe, Asia, the Pacific Islands. All of these peoples, now, of course, among these nations, amongst these places that I've mentioned, of course, the children of Israel, who are usually labeled as minorities, can be found within all of these places. Okay? But I'm speaking specifically to those who may be in these areas who may not be of ancient Israelite descent. Now, for those who may happen upon this and that concept of being an Israelite is new to you, if you're not sure as to who the Israelites are, we advise you to go and watch a video we did quite a few years ago. This video was titled, "The 12 Tribes Lost and Found." Okay? Type in GOCC, 12 Tribes Lost and Found, and you'll find a video on our website breaking down the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, for those who are not familiar with that concept. But nonetheless, I'm speaking more so about those who are in the know, we who have the Bible, we who have the knowledge, would label as Gentiles. Yes, the Gentile nations have also become ravished and become victimized by the spirit of pedophilia. When you examine those in what you would call the white Catholic communities, okay, or those who follow Catholicism, predominantly so-called Europeans, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that these people, even though they're not Israelites, even though they are Gentiles, even though biblically they would be considered oppressors of the nation of Israel, it is no doubt in anyone's mind that these people have also been affected and victimized, okay, by the spirit of pedophilia. Same can be said of those in so-called Asian communities. And the same can also be said of so-called Jewish communities. Yes, who the Bible refers to as the synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation 2:9, as well as Revelation 3:9. These people, their children, have also become victims of the spirit of pedophilia. In fact, stories come out every so often of pedophile rings that are ran by rabbis and those of the Jewish community. You hear stories of those within the Hasidic Jewish community, mothers, fathers, okay, family members who have had children within their family molested, okay, brutalized, so on and so forth. And because the community, the Jewish community, especially the Hasidic community, because it's so closed off, they really have no power to bring forth justice within the community. Okay. So, for example, a few years ago, there was an article, a story that came out on Russia Today. And within this story, they were discussing, I believe a mother was discussing how her son was a victim of pedophilia within the Jewish community. This was a Jewish woman. Okay. And she stated that she cannot do anything to now bring justice for her son and to bring justice or face the accusers because, again, the community is so shut off. The police are not allowed in to do any level of investigation. When the police come in, when reporters come in to try to ask questions concerning what's taking place in the community, is there child abuse taking place? Is there pedophilia taking place within the community? The police or reporters can't get a word out of anyone in the community. Okay? The reporters will come, the police will come, and they'll say, well, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay? We have no idea what you're speaking of. Right? Now, I'm mentioning this specifically, okay, because we have to realize the Bible says to the Jew first, then to the Gentile, or then to the Greek, right? Okay. Sorry about that. The Bible says to the Jew first, and then to the Greek. All right, one moment. Let me deal with this here. Very important call that I have to respond to here. Just one moment. All right. So the Bible says to the Jew first, and then to the Greek, or otherwise known as the Gentile. Okay. So I'm mentioning that because everyone who watches this video knows that our ministry, just as Christ's ministry was, first geared toward the children of the promise, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so of course, when we discuss and we discourse on certain topics, we're going to touch on topics that specifically deal with these people. Okay, one moment. One moment, brothers and sisters. I apologize. All right. Okay, so yes, everything that we touch on as far as topics is geared to the Jew first, then to the Gentile. So we're going to deal with things as they relate to the children of Israel. Okay. But we also would like to, touch on things also as they affect the world as a whole, because Satan in this program is not discriminating against its victims. Okay. This spirit, this demon of pedophilia is not discriminating against its victims. But again, getting back to the original point, the reason I'm mentioning this going into the Jewish community is because the same exact spirit of silence, the conspiracy of silence when it comes to pedophilia, not only exists in our communities, it exists in these other communities also, to show you that it's the same exact demon and the same exact spirit from one community to the next. Okay. We're tight lipped in the Black and Latino communities concerning this particular demon, this spirit. The white Catholic communities, okay, they're silent as far as this conspiracy within their communities. And yes, the Jewish communities, they're also silent about this demon within their communities. Okay. Now, there's just a few things I wanted to read on this that we didn't get an opportunity to touch on last week. We're not going to harp on this too much because, of course, we know we're dealing with the most evil time of year, which those who are in the world will tell you is the most wonderful time of the year. But we're going to touch on that in a few moments. Okay. There's a few things I wanted to deal with from last week's discussion that we didn't have an opportunity to get to because there was so much powerful, so much touching information that came out that, we really had to reserve a lot that we had prepared. Okay. Just a few things that I wanted to deal with as far as this normalization of the spirit of pedophilia. Then afterwards, we're going to move forward and deal with the next segment of tonight's broadcast. Okay. Which will be dealing with the reason for the season, right? The spirit of Christmas. All right. Right here before me, I'm pulling up an article. And the title of this article goes as follows. Did a TEDx speaker say pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation? Again, did a TEDx, many of you may be familiar with TEDx, they have a channel on YouTube. They also have their own channel in which people come up and they speak on different topics before a crowd of people, right? Well, this same platform was used by a woman to come forward to try to convince those who were within the audience and possibly those who would eventually watch this in the future that pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation. Let's see if I can pull this up here before you. I'm going to read a little bit of this. You can always read this on your own time. Okay. Again, this is just giving us more information as to what's coming down the pipe as far as this particular spirit and how it's being imposed especially upon those who are seeking to follow the Most High in righteousness, who are seeking the Most High in spirit and in truth, and in all things, in every way possible, is now seeking to protect their children. Okay, we're trying to protect our children from the environment, from the vaccines, from the lies they're being taught in school. All these things we're trying to protect our children from. And no sooner as we get into a position where we're able to protect them from one thing, another thing comes down the pipe, in which we now have to sit back, we have to think and strategize on how we're able to protect our children and our families from this new thing. Or it's not necessarily new, it's just now becoming more open and more accepted, and it's being shoved down our throats. Just like a few years ago, the whole LBGT thing was shoved down our throats. Well, here's another thing that they're shoving down the throats of the masses. In the same way, initially, if you remember, when the LBGT thing came on the scene, not a few years ago, I'm talking about initially when they started pushing these things on the scene, remember, it was met with opposition. It was seen as fringe, strange. In fact, at one point, those who would now call themselves the LBGT community, at one point, they were documented on the books as having a mental illness. Okay? This is how fringe or how strange this spirit was once seen, or was once labeled, even within the Americas. Now, of course, behind closed doors, we know a lot of these people, these paper pushers, these people who passed the law, so on and so forth. A lot of these people were dealing with this activity behind the scenes. Okay, Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, so on and so forth. But at least within the masses and in the forefront, they at least try to put some level of label upon this spirit, showing it as a mental illness. All right. But through time, through media, through Hollywood, okay, casting that witch's wand upon the masses, giving people different images of people who are those who are of the quote unquote LBGT community, who were brutalized, who were bullied, who committed suicide, and so on and so forth, because everyone around them just didn't accept them. Their families turned their backs on them when they found out that they were, dealing within this spirit, so on and so forth. All these different things they put out there to eventually get sympathy from the masses. Well, brothers and sisters, the same exact process is taking place with pedophiles. Where now, initially, as they try to introduce it here and there, it's being met with a little bit of opposition. It's being seen as strange, fringe. Those who deal with it are being seen as one who has a mental illness or a sickness. But slowly but surely, brothers and sisters, just as it was with homosexuality and lesbianism, slowly but surely, you're going to notice that the perception and the view of pedophilia will change. Okay? And you have organizations in the Americas, within North America, such as NAMBLA. Okay, I think it's called it stands for the North American Man and Boy Love Association, which is an association that's been around for ages, advocating for pedophiles. Okay? So you're going to notice as the years draw by, as men become more and more perverse, as men separate more and more from the guidance and the correction and the commandments of God, you're going to notice that they're going to delve deeper and deeper into deviancy, accepting every form of lust, every form of impure activity, homosexuality, lesbianism, pedophilia, bestiality, okay? Sexual relations, or cohabiting with robots and all these different things that they're pushing. Okay, you're going to see this more and more as men sink deeper and deeper into this state of perdition and separation from the love of the Most High God. But getting to the point here, this is an article titled, "Did a TEDx Speaker Say Pedophilia is an Unchangeable Sexual Orientation?" And they have it here. It's true. I guess this is from Snopes.com, and I guess they're verifying that this is a true article. And I think this is off the back. Nowadays fake news, this concept of fake news has become mainstream. So I guess they verified the fact that this is a true article, which is off the back of a true event that took place. And if you want to, you can actually look this up on YouTube and see the live TED Talk yourself. Okay? All right. So it says here, on May 5th, 2018, the University of Wurzburg in Germany held an event with the theme of future societies that featured Mirjam Hain. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. A medical student who gave what would become a controversial presentation on the subject of why our perception of pedophilia has to change. So it was actually a woman who brought forth this presentation at TEDx. It says here, in her talk, Hain told the story of a 19-year-old Jonas, a Munich law student. Now check that out. The person that she's advocating for, whether this is a real person or not, we know that a lot of times they like to use fake stories, or they like to use these different, they like to use these fake stories in order to advocate for something that they're about to push or put on the law books anyway. But notice that they stated that this person, this 19-year-old Jonas, is a law student. So let's say hypothetically, this individual is a real person. 9 times out of 10, because he's a law student, you can now imagine that he's going to be pushing law or helping to put laws in place to advocate for pedophilia. Okay? And keep in mind that the laws for pedophilia at this current time are skewed. Where pedophiles, they pretty much get a slap on the wrist for abusing children. Okay? But it says here, in her talk, Hain told the story of a 19-year-old Jonas, a Munich law student who is sexually attracted to girls aged 6 to 12 years old. But since he's aware of the consequences for the children, as if he's really thinking about the children, he has never given into his sexual drive. She cited the 10th revision of the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems for the description of pedophilia as a sexual or as the sexual preference for pre-adolescent children, and pointed to unspecific research that differentiates between children or child sex abusers and pedophiles. Okay, so this goes on and on and on within the article. Again, you can read this in your own time, but just again to show you what they're shoving down our throats, what they're ready to put on the books concerning this demonic spirit of pedophilia, which again has been ravishing and silently destroying not only our communities, the Israelite communities, the Black communities, the Latino communities, the Native Indian communities, and the Israelites within the world over. Okay, it's also destroying the Gentile communities. Okay. Also, some of you may have heard of this new thing they're putting out there on the this new thing they're putting out there, which is called, let me get the name of it here, Comprehensive Sexuality Education. Okay, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, or CSE. When you get the opportunity, look this up, because again, These are the things they're looking to push on our children within the schools. And this is being pushed by, I believe, the World Health Organization, along with many other globalist organizations that are looking to have this as an actual curriculum within schools. And when I say within school, I'm not talking about high school or amongst those who at least should have the mind to be able to make, proper decisions on their own to some degree. Okay. I'm talking about that this information, this curriculum is being pushed upon children as young as kindergarten and is actually giving advice or advising sexual relations for children starting from infants all the way up to adolescence. Okay. They give all these different guidelines of the quote unquote the sexual experiences that a child should have from an infant all the way up until the age of 2 or 3 years old, from 4 years old to 5 years old, from 5 years old to 12 years old. All just real sick stuff when you look into it. Okay, I don't have time to go into it too deep today, but when you get the opportunity, please look this up. Again, this is called comprehensive sexuality education. This is what's coming to a school near you. And it's imperative, again, we have to come back, we have to sit down, we have to strategize and find out ways to keep our children protected from these types of impositions. And right now, one of the biggest tools we have against the social programming that takes place within school, one of the biggest things we have now is homeschooling. But who knows how long they're going to allow that before it's, you know, they flush that down the pipe. All right. But while we still have it, let's use it to our advantage. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next phase of our show, which is dealing with the most wonderful or the most wicked, depending on how you look at it, from which vantage point you examine this season, the most wicked or the most wonderful time of the year. All right. For the past month or so, we've been bombarded with advertisements and media, family, friends, and coworkers who feel that it is their godly duty to embrace and enforce the spirit of Christmas. Many of us have had to take strong or stand strong against the ones we know and love who didn't understand why we no longer or why you no longer desire to partake in their feast of blood. If there's anything you've had to stand against in the name of the Most High this season, please call in at 515-605-9327. Give us your testimony concerning anything that you've had to stand against during this so-called holiday season as it relates to the family, loved ones at work, the co-workers, the boss, the manager. Has this thing been forced down your throat as usual? Have things changed since you've been in the truth? Many of us have been in the truth for maybe about 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 years. So maybe by now you're a little bit more free to flex and maneuver based on the fact that people probably got the message and got the memo by now that you don't celebrate the holidays of this world. Now, for many of us, we may be a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, and we're still kind of struggling. We're still kind of going through that battle with family members as relates to this time of year. Some of us may just be a few months in. Okay. And this may have been the first time or the first so called holiday season that you have had to stand against. If that's the case, again, call us at 515-605-9327 and just give us your testimony. Let us know how you were able to stand this holiday season against the workers of iniquity, no matter who that may be. Let us know some of the responses you got. Let us know, what some of the threats were and, all the things that our people go through around this time of season. All right. Again, that number is 515 605 9327. Let me paste it in the chat for you all. Okay, we got Sister Stacy Teller who stated 5 years in this truth. Everything is easier now. My family knows I don't partake in these pagan holidays, and all praises and glory be to the Most High for that. Again, many of us who have been in this truth for some time, our family got the message a long time ago that we're no longer celebrating Thanksgiving, no more Thanksgiving dinner at our house, no more Christmas celebrations at the house, no more Christmas trees and Christmas decorations and all those other things that people look forward to around this time of year. No more Easter egg hunts. Many of our people got the memo. Many of our family members got that memo a long time ago. But again, for some of us, this may be the first time that we have went without Christmas celebration. The family is kind of looking at you strange. Your birthday came around. You didn't want to do anything for your birthday. Easter came around. You didn't want to go to the Easter Day service as usual. Okay. Sunday worship used to be an avid Sunday worshiper. No longer are you worshiping on Sunday. You only desire to worship on the Sabbath. So these things, these are like notifiers, so to speak. Okay. These are like things like once you begin to separate from this world, they have inbuilt mechanisms to ensure that everyone around you notices. Even they themselves, they may not even notice that they're examining you in your transformation. They may think it's just them, or they may look at it or feel like it's just them having concern for your, all of a sudden you're listening to these people online and no longer do you want to celebrate with the family. You no longer want to go to church on Sunday. Okay. You're changing the way you eat. Okay. So they're looking at it from a state of concern. And you know what? To some degree, it's your family's, it's their prerogative. It's their business to be concerned for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But with that comes, and again, they may not even notice it themselves. With it is like for those who have seen that movie, They Live, where someone can now see what the world around them really stands for. You can now see what the world really is, or you can see the world for what it really is now. And now everyone around you, without even noticing it, it's like you put on those sunglasses, you see everything, and now they're looking at you like, okay, we have one who can now see. We have one whose eyes are now opened. Okay. For those who didn't see that movie, They Live with Roddy Piper and Keith David, please go see that movie. That movie drops a lot of information concerning really what happens to someone when they begin to waken or wake up to the truth concerning this world. Okay. Again, watch that movie when you get the opportunity. If you got to purchase it on DVD or whatever you have to do to watch that movie, please do so, because again, it drops it heavy on the awakening as far as being able to see the world for what it really is. Okay, but that's an example of what takes place when we begin to separate from our normal courses of action. When we're separating from the birthday, we're separating from the Easter egg hunts and the Easter day, Easter Sunday service, church service. We're separating from Thanksgiving celebration. We're separating from the Christmas Day celebration. No longer are we sending our children out to trick or treat or to celebrate Halloween. Okay? You don't want anything on Valentine's Day from your significant other. You're not looking for anything on Mother's Day or Father's Day from your children. These are all notifiers. Okay? Inbuilt mechanisms that Satan put in place so that once you wake up, everyone around you starts to focus in and hone in on you and start asking questions concerning your well-being. And because they've been pre-programmed to believe that what they have done all of their life, as far as tradition, is the normal course of action or the normal way of life, anything outside of that is perceived as being in a cult. But the reality is that American culture, when I say American culture, I'm speaking specifically of its holidays and, just everything that has become normal in the society. Believe it or not, that is the cult. People ask you, well, what type of cult are you in that doesn't allow you to celebrate Christmas with your family? Okay, fair enough. I'll tell you what, I'll answer your question with a question. I'll tell you what cult I'm a part of or what cult I'm in when you tell what type of cult you're in that tells you to worship and celebrate Christmas on December 25th as the celebration of Christ's birth, when nowhere in the Bible does it mention that Christ was born on December 25th. When you tell me what type of cult that is, I'll tell you what type of cult I'm in. What type of cult are you in that tells you, number one, that Easter bunnies or bunny rabbits lay eggs? And that in celebration of Christ's resurrection, we are to go on an Easter egg hunt. When you tell me what type of cult that is, I'll tell you what I believe in can be verified according to the Bible, whether you realize it, like it, or not. Okay? So, I want to hear some of your. Okay, someone says it's starting to get choppy here. All right, one moment. Is this better, brothers and sisters? Is this better? Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. All right, I want to hear some of the testimonies of the brothers and sisters who have had to endure this holiday season. Many of you are still enduring. Of course, we're a day after December 25th, so we're starting the process of people waking out of the sleep. People are snapping out of their trance. Okay, slowly but surely. Of course, that back in ancient Rome, they had 12 days of Saturnalia. And in modern times, they now promote it as what? 12 days of Christmas. So there's still a lot of time, there's still a little bit of the hangover of the Christmas spirit, but nonetheless, slowly but surely, as we creep towards New Year's, and once that ball drops, people will be fully awakened from their trance. Now, for many of us, We're still going to be feeling the effects and some of those pressures, not as much as we did before or leading up to December 25th. But you may still be feeling a little bit of those pressures, especially from work, the co-workers, they're getting ready for the New Year's party. And, you got family members who are, doing God knows what for New Year's Day. Okay. So slowly, that spirit may still be lingering. But for the most part, I want to hear some of the testimonies of those who have been in the thick of it and have had to go through had to stand for the Most High against the evildoers, even those who are doing evil in ignorance. Those of our family members, they don't know what goes on during these holidays and how these are high sacrificial days of human sacrifice, so on and so forth. They don't know these things. They're sold the commercialized, made for TV version of holiday celebration. Okay. And they're giving more so the perspective of it's for family, it's for the children, so on and so forth. Okay, it's for the children. Okay. You mean to tell me that it's for the children when children are actually being sacrificed on these days? What about those particular children who are being brutalized on this day? Is it for those children also? Okay. Nonetheless, again, I want to hear some of your testimonies. If you haven't had to deal with it, let me know. And if you would like, you can go to, some of the things you had to struggle with in the past with family, first coming into the truth, not celebrating the holidays, so on and so forth, and the pressures that you received through doing so. We're going to start off here with the 404 area code, last four digits, 2267. You're live on Blog Talk. Shalom, brother. How you doing?
Good, brother. Good. This is Brother Charming. I called in a few weeks ago, just explaining my testimony briefly and connected with you guys. And, I just had my first Shabbat just past Sabbath with the GOCC South congregation. And, it was a blessing for me and my family. As we, we're new believers, starch believers, babes, but we are, on the path and we understand and we have heard the Most High's voice, and we are hearkening to His word as we come back to Him. But just listening to this one, this is right on point, Elder. During this holiday, season, me and my family was definitely looking at me all sideways, like, man, what does he got going on? He don't eat pork no more. He said he ain't celebrating the holidays no more. He must be in a cult, and they looking at me like, what is it that you're doing? And I'm like, hey, just come read it. Come read it with me. And now everybody's like, nah, I don't want to read it. I don't want to hear nothing about what you're talking about. And then just yesterday, my grandmother called me, because I got my instructions to be hunkered down. Me and my family, we did not go anywhere. We stayed at home. I was able to catch my lesson with the Hebrew and Bible Academy, but I was not able to catch it on Sunday. So we were able to break open that lesson yesterday instead of, gathering with my family like we would normally do. And my grandmother called me to basically kind of tease me and to basically wish me a Merry Christmas. And I immediately hung the phone up on her. And she called me back immediately. And, she laughed and she was like, well, I just wanted to tease you. And I'm like, why are you trying to tease me when this is not funny? Like, she doesn't understand, the magnitude, and the severity and of what she's doing by, tempting the Most High. I understand. And I'm trying to tell it to them. And for me, all I'm getting is resistance. No, you can't teach us anything. You don't have a title. That's not what the Bible means. And I'm like, then what is it? It's clear as day to me, but, because, we were trained up in Christianity and, like I said, we've all been there. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know that I was wrapped up in it, brought up in it. But once I found out that it was a lie, and I always felt as a young man because people's actions weren't aligning up with what the scriptures were saying when I was a young man. So my spirit just never sat right. And when I got old enough to search the scriptures for myself, and I started asking the right questions, the Most High pointed me to the scriptures. And lo and behold, I came across you guys, and it's been a blessing, 6 months now strong, following you guys and now gathering with you guys. And it's just a blessing, and it sucks that we have to be ostracized for coming into the truth and wanting to share that truth with the ones that we care about the most. But for me, it's kind of getting to that point to like, what do we do when, the ones that are closest to you won't hear you, won't even give you an opportunity to sit down to see what it is that you've come across that's been revealed to you.
And that's a very good question, brother. And we're gonna not to cut you off, we're gonna address that. Hopefully, if we have time before we get off, we're gonna address that. How do we deal with family members who may not see things the way we see it at this time period? Those whose eyes are still sealed shut. We're going to deal with that. But let me ask you this before you go. I'm pretty sure there was a time in which you celebrated Christmas, you celebrated Thanksgiving and Easter. Let me ask, how did your family perceive you at that time?
Oh, it was all fine as long as I was going along with it. But the moment that I started saying, hey, we're not supposed to be celebrating this, it's clearly that, these traditions are traditions of heathens and pagans. The Most High is telling us that, any tradition that we keep, we're supposed to verify with him first and not with your pastor. Then that's when, now you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm, that's where it comes back. And I'm like, what do you mean? If you read Isaiah, the first chapter, the Most High is telling you right there. It's clear as day. There's no debating that. But like I said, for me, when the Most High, and that's why I'm so thankful for the Most High, His grace and His mercy, when He created my spirit, that He knew that one day that I would come back to Him. He knew that. So I'm just so thankful for it because, like I said, for me, I've always been a lawman, of black and white. I don't deal in gray areas. Right is right and wrong is wrong, regardless of who you are. You could be my mother or my father. But if you're right, I'm going to tell you you're right. And if you're wrong, I'll tell you you're wrong in a respectful way. There's a right and a wrong way to do it. But just because I'm younger than you doesn't mean that I can't correct you. And that's the type of society that we live in today. A young person can't give an older person correction. Who are you to tell me I've been on this earth longer than you? Okay, but that doesn't mean that you've been doing it right. There's nothing wrong, but people nowadays don't have accountability and they're too afraid to admit when they're wrong or when they've made a mistake.
Absolutely. And you know what?
My experience.
And you know what, brother? Thank you. You made some very great points. I'm going to put you back in the queue and go to the next caller. But brother, thank you for that call. And thank you for that testimony.
No problem.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. Let me see who we have here. We have, let's see, we have Sister Cora from New York. Sister Cora, you're live on Blog Talk.
Shalom, Elder. How are you?
I'm blessed by the best, my sister. How about yourself?
I'm blessed, and I'm blessed because, since I've been in the truth since 2013, that first year, my family was busy cooking and doing Christmas dinner and everything, but I hooked up with some Hebrews on Facebook. I've never met them face to face, but we became friends because they were in the truth. And we did a fast on Facebook the 25th and the 26th. So I enjoyed the fast that first year while everybody was aromas of the turkey was cooking and everything. And I've been telling my family over the years.
Now, Sister Cora, before you continue, is it possible, Sister Cora, before you continue, is it possible you can speak up a little bit? You sound a little bit muffled. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better, but it's still muffled. But just continue. It's fine.
Okay. Well, and so this year, I said nobody was well, the money didn't fall right. And so nobody bought her this gift or anything. And I tell you, it's just been such a peaceful, relaxed uh, day and day after. Not doing this hard Christmas shopping and trying to get everything done by the 25th. That used to be my favorite holiday. I'd be doing big gifts and everything, and I would be worn to a frazzle by the evening of the 25th. It was just like, today, the 26th, I am well relaxed.
Well, sister, all praises to the Most High. It's like the Most High then gave you rest after all this time running around and trying to get things together for these holidays, and trying to make sure it, and not to mention all the financial trouble our people go through dealing with these so-called holidays. All this trouble you go through to try to make sure you got everything right for the family, all the gifts and all the the big time meal and the supper, so on and so forth. And you look around, after everything is all said and done, and you find yourself in a wad of debt. Okay, I mean it's ridiculous. Say that one more time, sister. Exactly, exactly, exactly. Well, thank you, my sister. Thank you, Sister Cora, for calling in. You always bring some great points. I'm going to go to the next caller, but sister, bless you and shalom. All right. Let me try to work this out here. Some of the brothers and sisters who are listening is saying that the sound is low for the callers. Let me try to adjust this here a little bit. Just one moment, brothers and sisters. Just one moment. Bear with me. All right. Hopefully this is better. Okay, is this much clearer for those who are listening online or on YouTube? Okay, good, good, good. There's one thing I wanted to read before I go to the next caller. Okay. In fact, I'm going to hold this off. Let me go through a few more callers before I go into that. Okay. Hopefully after this, I turned up the microphone. Hopefully you can hear the callers a bit better as they call in. We're going to go to our next caller on Blog Talk. Let's see who we have here. We have Brother Danny in St. Louis. Brother Danny, you're live on Blog Talk. Shalom, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Blessed by the best.
All right, I hear that, my brother. So tell me, brother, have you had to stand up against any evil during this period of time, during this so-called holiday season?
Yes, sir, I have been promoted to a supervisor. I fasted on the day of our Christmas party. And just because, it's my agents, they were, oh, you can eat with us and this and that and third. No, I explained to them. And you always going to have confrontational Israelites, as always. So I kind of broke the rules. I cracked open Jeremiah 10 and even sung the song a little bit so that way they can understand. I like to educate so that way our people can see and then understand, because sometimes the scriptures are locked. Even though they have the ear and want to hear, it's their minds are still a little locked.
Right.
So you can sing the song Right. You sing the song Silver and Gold. Then you start, okay, I understand the scriptures now. So not only have I had to deal with this for Christmas, I had to do the same thing for Thanksgiving. I brought my apocrypha in and cracked it open. Let them know we have holy days and explain to them. Christmas is one day. Pharrell is two. So when you deal with the Most High, you see how you get more. He's more flexible. You know, and they start, you know, people are actually coming to the body now. So I try to sow the seed and, you know, pray to the Most High that every day we still continue to wake up, because, you know, we can't do it all by ourselves. And, you know, it's good people that come out of the Christian church. I wasn't one of them. I left a long time ago. Right. So, I mean, being overseas, being ex-military, I left the spirit a long time ago. It never felt right. So, you know, I'm educating my mother, my cousins, my great aunt, all of them. You know, I've had people, you know, go off on me and everything like that. So, with that being the case, the first brother that you took on the call, if he's still listening, try to educate. I had to learn that we have to be just as patient as the Most High has been with us. So.
Absolutely. And brother, thank you, brother. Thank you for your call. Wonderful points. And that's a key thing we're also going to touch on as far as how to deal with our family members and those around us who are not in the truth. But brother Danny, again, thank you for your call. Some great points. I'm going to put you back in the queue, okay?
Also, before you do that, let Elder Rawchaa know I heard him about a month and a half ago. I'm going to start trying to get back in and be number one on the call. I ain't disappeared.
Absolutely. I'll let him know, my brother. Shalom.
All right.
All right. And yes, the brother made some very great points as far as educating our family members, our loved ones, and those who are close to us. Many times, and that's not to say that that's the case for everyone, or even for Brother Sharmas, who called in earlier, that he took a confrontational approach. But many times when we get knowledge and understanding, we receive it in a manner which is, sometimes we may receive it in a street speaking, which in the street speaking, sometimes the message can be delivered in a form of debate or a form of what seems as confrontation. So sometimes we may take that approach back home when that approach may not be the best approach when you're dealing one-on-one or when you're dealing in a conversation with family members. Okay? There's one type of spirit you have to have on those streets just based on the nature of dealing out on the street, dealing in those speakings. And then there's another type of spirit and another type of wisdom that can be exercised when you're dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, or if you're just dealing with family in a family setting. There's a way you can educate and have a conversation in a manner which is more so teaching in love and in respect of who you're speaking to, opposed to, you know, knocking them over the head with knowledge and knocking them over the head of what they're not doing or what they should be doing. There's more skillful ways. And one of the most skillful ways, believe it or not, because that initial conversation or that initial discussion that you have with family members, 9 times out of 10, they're going to reject what you're saying. But you know what's more powerful than what you say to them or how you try to convert them or how you try to bring the word? The most powerful thing will be the example that you leave behind. Think about it for those who have been in the truth 5, 6, 7 years. A year into the truth, you were probably still battling and dealing with a lot of these issues. 2 years in the truth, you were dealing with these issues. Okay, 3 years in the truth, you're kind of still dealing with it, but people are kind of catching on. They're kind of just accepting the fact that, you know what, this has been your walk. This is what you're dealing with. You've been dealing with it for the past 3 years. So I don't really see a change now. I'm going to kind of leave you alone a little bit. Okay. Year 4, you start getting less and less pushback. Year 5, year 6, Now you're kind of at the point where people just accept it for what it is. People are now starting to more so just examine how the changes that you've made in your life. No longer are they dealing with the initial um, the initial excitement or the initial response of you not wanting to deal with family functions and dealing with Christmas and all those different things. That's kind of wearing off. And now they're more so just trying to focus on and look at, okay, what is this person actually saying? What are they actually about? They've been on this route for the past 6 or 7 years. They've changed their diet. They have changed their way of life. They've changed the way they've dressed in the past. They have changed the way that they speak. Everything about this person is slowly but surely changing. Let me look a little bit more deeper into what they're actually saying. And then you'll notice something. The person who did not want to hear anything you had to say will now begin to come to you and do what? Ask questions. So what was that thing you was telling me about 4 or 5 years ago about this Christmas thing? Or what was that thing you were telling me about in the Bible about the dietary law? What was it you were saying about this here prophecy, this thing that's coming to pass, and this war and this conflict that's taking place here in this city or this country, so on and so forth? They'll start coming to you and asking you questions. What was this thing you were telling me about the Sabbath, the seventh day? Oh, okay, show me that in the Bible. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, but that happens through time and living and leading by example. Okay. Nonetheless, just a few words of wisdom. Okay. Let me see what some of the brothers and sisters have to say on Ustream. Again, we're not going to be on for the whole duration. We're going to keep it short tonight. I'm going to take a few more calls before we close out. Oh, yes. Let me make some announcements. Someone brought up the funeral for our brother Azariah. Yes, of course, Elder Rawchaa, he'll probably come on next week and discuss things, the course of action that took place today. Okay. I'm not going to take the liberty to do so, but nonetheless, I will say that our brother Azariah, our dear brother, was laid to rest today. And again, our prayers, our condolences go out to his family, his loved ones. We pray that they stay strong in this time of trouble, in this time of grief and sorrow. We just pray that the Most High, his Holy Spirit, be with them to give them comfort, to give them rest, and to give them peace in this current time. Okay. I ask you all to continue to pray for Brother Azariah's family. And also, I would like to ask that you brothers and sisters pray for all those who are struggling and currently fighting these sicknesses that have been imposed on them through this satanic system and the medicine and this wicked healthcare system that they have with these vaccines, just pushing all these different things on our people. Just pray for all those who are sickly, those who are going through physical illness, mental illness, those who are just fighting to overcome. Okay, that's another thing we have to stand against in this this system, or stand up against the workers of iniquity in this current system. Those who are being used to impose these sicknesses or this death care system upon our people. Okay, we've been standing up against it. We've been speaking out against it for the longest. Okay. A lot of this information that we've been bringing forward, some of you have been using and have been standing up against the workers of iniquity, the physicians of no value of this society, have been going to the doctors, some of yourselves have been healed of some of the things that you've been battling, and people have been telling you for years that it's incurable. You can't overcome this. You can't fight this. Just do what the doctor is telling you, so on and so forth. But yet, through the information and through the things that we've brought forward, along with some of the help of the herbalists, like Dr. Truman, who have been able to come on and actually add the expertise when it comes to dealing with certain supplements, dealing with herbs and dealing with the change of lifestyle, the change of diet, those who have been able to benefit from those things. We give all praise and glory and honor to the Most High for that. And pray that you all continue to stay strong, you continue to stay healthy, you continue to stand against the workers of iniquity in this society, the physicians of no value, who impose themselves upon our people with this death care system. And again, pray for the brothers and sisters who are out there who are sick, who are fighting sicknesses, who are fighting disease. Pray that the Most High send forth His Holy Spirit to anoint them, that they're healed, and that they may overcome these sicknesses. Okay? All right. Let me see what some of you all have to say out here on Ustream. In fact, before I do so, let me make some announcements. First and foremost, when it comes to the Hebrew and Bible Academy, we had our first week in which we broke down the creation of the universe as our main biblical/historical lesson. We went in depth like we've never done before, touching on some of the mysteries of creation, dispelling a lot of the lies that have been put out there by the so-called scientists and the teachers of this society, those who deal with the wisdom of this world. Okay. We also had the news segment with Brother Shapat, bringing forth wonderful news as always, keeping us informed, letting us know the importance. One of the main things that came out is the importance of us preparing and making sure that we're storing food and we're storing supplies and water just in case for a time of emergency. Okay. And I myself, I came through this past Sunday, did the Hebrew alphabet, introduced some of our brothers and sisters to the Hebrew language for the first time for some of you. For others, this may be your 10th Academy. Some of you may be your 15th. And for all those who continually support, we thank you for your support. Okay. We cannot do this without you as far as bringing forth this work, bringing forth this world, this word, traveling to different areas of the world to set up churches, so on and so forth. All of that is made possible through what's given through the Academy. And we thank you all for your support. For those who are still interested in the Academy, you can still enroll. You can send an email to gatheringas1, the number 1 at AOL.com. And we'll give you instructions on how to join. Also, you can go to our website and join through our website. For those who would like to donate, types, offerings, and donations, so on and so forth, you can go to our website, gatheringofchrist.org. On our page, we have a donate section where you can start to donate, give offerings or donations or whatever you would like to give to help support the ministry so that we can continue to work, continue to set up churches throughout the four corners of the earth, continue to labor day and night in this work. Okay. Also, for those who don't know, I Am Apparel is the actual official clothing store for the Gathering of Christ Church. For those who are interested, in fact, I'm not sure if you can see this shirt here. This shirt here is actually one of the official uniform shirt for those who are actively a part of the ministry, elders, deacons, bishops, officers, administrators, so on and so forth. But we also have casual wear that's available on I Am Apparel. So if you're interested in some of the things you see us wear during the live streams, the live broadcast, you can go to iamapparelstore.org and start ordering today. All right. Also, our calendars we're starting to make those available for pre-order. Okay. So if you're interested in the 2019 Hebrew calendar, you can send an email to gatheringas1, the number 1 at AOL.com, and we'll make sure we get back to you with information on how to order a calendar. Also, last but not least, for those who are interested in the GOCC network, what you can do is you can go to our website, gatheringofchrist.org. And on our website, we have a section for those who are enrolled under the GOCC network, who have businesses, who have products and services, those who may desire those services, okay, and those products. Okay, so you can check that out again through gatheringofchrist.org. You can go to GOCC Network Business Directory, and you can see all the businesses and services that are listed under the network. Okay. All right. Going back to Blog Talk, we have the 702 area code, last 4 digits, 6174. You're live on Blog Talk.
Shalom.
Shalom, Deacon Balas. How you doing, my brother?
Man, bless the Most High. Hi, you pulled up the right topic today through the Spirit of the Most High, because this weekend was very profound for me. I went back to my hometown, and this weekend was the holiday season, and I ended up visiting one of my cousins, and they had the abomination of desolation, the Christmas tree in their house. And it was I had been talking to them. I'm about 10 years, studying under the Gathering Christ Church, part of the Gathering Christ Church, according to the Spirit. Most High brought me right into the Gathering Christ Church. Right when I came into the Gathering Christ Church is when I went to go talk to them. And at that time, Elder Rawchaa was bringing heavy, according to the Spirit, this is Babylon, and Babylon will be destroyed. He was prophesying out on the street. So if you could imagine you came in right off the street. So when you go to your family, it's like the energy you come with is that energy. Like,
right.
Yo, it's going down. You know what I'm saying? It's happening all before your sight. So that's how it was. And back then you want to be out on the street too at the same time, but at that time you didn't have the discernment to divide that this, like you said, it's different how you would speak on the street than how you would speak, to a family member in person, one-on-one, sitting and conversing, or in front of people.
Exactly.
Because some people had that conversation, and they might feel attacked when you really not attacking them, or you might feel attacked because you brand new, but they not really attacking you. It's just so much misconceptions that could happen, and it'll cause a family to divide. But Yeshua said it, that he came as a sword. The word is going to divide. So
90
but
seconds.
At the same time, we should not be the reason to divide.
That's right.
But at that time, I was the reason. I was the reason. It wasn't the Spirit, of the Most High. I was the reason that caused the division between me and my family. And that's me admitting that I had did things that I shouldn't have done. So with that being said, that's how the first impression was.
60 seconds.
America going down, gas prices going to rise, famine is going to happen, this is going to happen. So they remember all of that. That's what they remember. They remember the energy that I had, not the information that I was imparting to them.
Right.
They just remember the energy, the way I had shared it with them. So that was 10 years ago. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, but the day before. No, it happened the day before. So that was December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, where, I actually went to their house.
10
I
seconds.
didn't intend on talking about the Christmas tree or talking about the truth. I just wanted to see my family. But I knew, I know how to see my family now, with respect, with honor, and, I know how to just be calm and cautious. And I had family from the church, my church family. I came with my church family, so they could also be a testimony too. Not that we was just going to testify. Again, I'm just going to sit and, and converse. Of course, the Bible is going to come up. I knew that, you know, but that's not my intention. So we sat, we talked, and eventually here come the Bible. And the first time out of 10 years, I got to read a scripture to them. 10 years of a lawyer. The impact that had on me, because I be informing people all the time. You might have came in as soon as you heard the word, but some people, it's gonna take 10 years.
Right.
And when I read that scripture, you know, I actually I sat there and I was being very patient. I wanted to make sure he wanted to hear about that Christmas tree, because that's what they do remember me talking about, the Christmas tree. So they said, well, tell me about the Christmas tree again. I said, no, I don't. You know, I can't tell you. I'm gonna let God tell you. You know what I'm saying? It's the Most High that's talking.
Right. Exactly.
So I just read it to him. I read it to him, and I told him to break it down to me. I'm not going to break it down to you. You break it down to me. And he broke it down and looked at his tree and said, man, right there is described that we're not supposed to be doing this. Right there is describing we're not supposed to be doing this. And I'm like, man, I told you that 10 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So,
right.
I mean, it's just the spirit. It's just the spirit that she's saying what she's saying tonight. It's true. You know, I didn't go to any Christmas parties. The last Christmas party I went to before this one, I told everybody, listen, I'm leaving America. I'm not accepting no gifts, no presents. And but if you want to donate, I have a donate fund for me leaving. That's the last one I went to. You know, but this one, I did. I believe I really sowed a righteous seed into my cousin, to where I talked to him today, and it's like he has a better understanding that the Bible. It's leading him to the Bible. I ain't gonna say he all the way in yet, but it's leading him, and that's all you want to do. You want to lead people so that they could make a conscious decision that it's the truth and not be force-fed.
Exactly.
You know, not be force-fed.
Exactly, and that's the key.
So,
that's the key. You know, there's the old saying. You know, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. You know, so at least if we can get the family member to come to this water of life, lead them bit by bit, piece by piece. Be patient. And as you mentioned, I mean, 10 years before someone was willing to actually hear a scripture from the Bible concerning the topic of a Christmas tree. How many of us have that patience to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to leave this alone for 10 years. And hopefully the Most High bless a situation where we can revisit this. And once it's revisited, you know, it's so poignant and so clear cut that now they start to see it for themselves. Now their eyes start to open. I mean, that's the power and beauty of the Most High that we can now exude and bring forward just through being patient.
yes, and that's the main point. Because the first time I came around, and Elder Rawchaa was teaching what he was teaching, man, I felt like Babylon was going down, you know, in a couple of weeks. So I'm hammering people with the scripture.
Right.
You know, just going in like, yo, this is happening, you know. But I told them, it did stick, but it wasn't the right way of, you know, sowing the seed. It just wasn't. And it took 10 years, but I'm just excited that he is like really, I mean, when I say really thinking, I mean, the wheels are spinning. Like, it's almost like he's in college trying to figure something out, you know? So, not that he jumped right into the Bible, But when I read him that scripture, he said, that's how I want to read the Bible, word verbatim, word for word. And what interpretation do you have to give in order for you to actually see that that's talking about the Christmas tree? You don't have to give anything except for, and this is the issue that I find too, is that brothers and sisters that's in Christianity or in other religions don't read the Bible at all, they don't know the terms and words of the Bible. So when it say custom, or when it say heathen,
right,
or when it say the works of the hands and the workmen with the axe, they don't know phrases and they don't know the terms. So if you give them the information on what this means, then they can grasp the concept. But they have to know what you're talking about. You can't you just can't force feed them. It's almost like telling them the children of Israel, but they don't even know who Israel is.
Exactly.
So what you give to them?
Exactly.
So I just want to say this is blessed. The Spirit is you got the Spirit, bless the Most High, and it just, I'm just so excited because this is an excellent topic, especially for me, due to the fact I just got finished talking to my cousin, and it's been 10 years. So I'm waiting for other testimonies that they didn't waited 5 or 6 or 7 years, because what we'll end up doing when we exert our righteousness and are over righteous, we'll get rid of people that eventually come into the truth.
Absolutely.
Whether they be friends or family, and we don't want to burn bridges like that. We just want to leave the best impression. If we're talking about the Bible, we got to make sure we even look up the part, because back then that was my thing too. I didn't want to comb my hair. I grew out my beard. It was all nappy, So my family thought I was literally crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, today it's a little different. I'm a little more clean cut, and I got myself together now.
Absolutely, absolutely. But hey, man, I think we all go through that phase. We want to be ultra super Hebrew, and you read that scripture, you misinterpret the understanding. A man ain't supposed to line up his beard and all that other stuff, and you just go extra hard, thinking that's what you have to be in order to please the Most High, which obviously is not the case. And we get that through time and through wisdom and understanding. The Most High shows us a better way, especially through experience, that we can present ourselves in a better fashion in more ways than one, whether it be physical appearance, whether it be the way we break down the scriptures, the way we interact. There's always a better way of doing things. So for those who may have been unsuccessful this year, that's fine. Go back to the drawing board, get more well-versed in the scriptures, study to show yourself approved, change your approach, see how it works.
That's right.
All right. Well, but thank you, Brother Balas, Deacon Balas. Thank you for your testimony, a very powerful testimony. And I'm going to take a few more calls. I want to see what some of these other brothers and sisters have to say concerning their experience and their testimonies. But brother, thank you and bless you, brother. Shalom. I will put you back in the queue.
Sure.
All right. All right. Let's see here. We have. See who we have here. We have Sister Debbie in North Carolina. Sister Debbie, you're live on Blog Talk.
Shalom, Elder. How are you?
I'm doing well, sister. How about yourself?
Oh, doing well. What you said earlier about being an example, that's exactly what I wanted to bring out, because we've been in the streets for 2 years now, my husband, myself, and my family. And during that time, my sister and my mother have come along because we've been consistent in what we're doing. This is our third Christmas that we haven't celebrated. And the first time I heard the truth, My sister was shocked because I took everything and threw it away, every little piece of Christmas stuff. And, soon she was like, well, show me what I need to throw away. And my mom is now ministering to her cousins. My father, he still loves his pagan holidays. He knows that what I'm saying is right, but he likes the celebrations of it on a consistent basis. But there's something that Sister Carol says out here. She says, and it makes so much sense, is that we have to remember that we were once there, that we were once celebrating Christmas, we were once buying gifts, we were once, decking the halls and everything. And as our family is coming out of it, they have to see an example. And they're looking at you, and some of them are looking at you like you're going through a fad and it's going to be over. And, and they're waiting for you to change up and do something else. And then when they don't see that you do anything else, and they start coming along, even employers and such. My employer doesn't call me for clients on between Friday night and Saturday night. And I've been with them for 6 years, and it took the 2 years for them to catch on, but they have. But the clients that I'm at right now on a regular basis for the past year, if they have any get together, they're so sweet to me. They're Edomites, and they do pagan everything, but they always Debbie doesn't eat pork, and make sure, because Debbie, we understand that you're going to be at church on the Sabbath, so and blah blah. And these are not things that I walk up in their house or in their area and go, hey, I'm a super Hebrew, and look at here, you don't do this, and this. It's example. They're the ones that ask me, why don't you eat this?
Right,
why
absolutely.
Don't you why do you go to church on Sabbath? And I have the opportunity to gently tell them. And I have to be honest, there's some times where I thought maybe I should say something more, especially when I was switching to a Hebrew. But then I could, I felt myself pulled back by the Holy Spirit to go, no, not yet. Just continue to be that example. So I just wanted to say that sometimes, we really have to love our family through it and not hold it against them, because we were once there too.
Absolutely, sister. Let me ask you a question off the back of that. You were mentioning that your workplace, after about 2 years, started catching on to certain things. Let me ask, what was your conduct initially when, did you go into the office and, toss a chair over across the room and say, I'm an Israelite, and, I keep the Sabbath. I ain't working no more on the Sabbath. I celebrate the Passover. Don't call me on Passover. Was that the approach, or were you just kind of patient at taking things one step at a time, being steadfast, and eventually they kind of caught on?
How dare you call me to work on the Sabbath? No, I was very patient with them. When I learned to speak and they started calling me for Friday night, Saturday night, I told them, I said, we're Hebrew and we worship. I said, I know most of you worship on Sundays and your nurses want Sundays off, but I tell you what, I'm willing to work every other Sunday if you can note that I do not work on Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And they did it. And then next time somebody called me in to work, then another one reminded them that no, she works every other Sunday for us. She doesn't have Friday night, Saturday night to work. And that went on, and that's been that way for the past 2 years. And they will remind each other about me. And I never made a fuss about it. I never had to go and throw over any chairs or, read somebody from head to toe. And now I've been blessed that I can be off on Sundays also, just in case we have to stay overnight, practice in Raleigh or something like that. It took a little while, but, through patience, I was willing to work with them, in other words. You know what I mean? If I can have this day, I can give you a little bit over on this end. And that worked out.
Well, sister, thank you for that testimony. That was very powerful. I'm going to put you back in the queue, sister. Shalom. And I'm going to move on to the next caller, okay? Shalom, my sister. Again, another very powerful testimony. And I think it's going to serve, especially for those who may be new to the truth. This is going to serve as a representation or an example of how to use wisdom in these situations. Okay, there are ways. Yes, we know this is Satan's system. We know that he's in control of the workings of this earth, so on and so forth. But if you walk steadfast and you operate with wisdom and patience, so on and so forth, and humility, there's ways you can work around in this system in order to stand for the Most High against the workers of iniquity. To have that opportunity, as the sister says, all she did was make a phone call, or someone made a phone call to her requesting that she work on a Saturday, and she just kind of broke it down to them. And they made sure that going forward, she was accommodated based on her belief. Okay. Now, of course, some places are a little different. Some places you confess your belief. Again, you get those rough stares. You get all eyes on you. Everyone looking to now find a way to entrap you, as they did to Daniel in the book of Daniel, to try to get you fired, to try to get you to disassociate yourself from your belief. Okay. So you have spiteful people like that. But usually, as in the book of Daniel, as in the book of Esther with Haman trying to come against Mordecai and the Israelites, as others who have tried to come against us and entrap us, they always find themselves with the short end of the stick. May not be immediately, but somewhere down the line, they find themselves messing with the wrong person. Okay, because people who are spiteful like that, they kind of do that in other situations also. It just so happens that now they got a person who now confesses a certain belief system. They may, one day you may be on your lunch break. They walk in, they see you watching one of the videos. They see Dimitri's on. And next thing you know, they sending emails around the office and having conversations and, going to the higher ups and saying that you are a part of a hate group or a cult. They may play one of the videos of in the office or what have you. Okay, of one of the controversial topics, probably us going in on the LBGT thing, and all of a sudden you find yourself being pulled into a meeting, an unnecessary meeting, being questioned concerning your beliefs, or people may start doing things a little bit more covertly concerning you. You're being pulled up on things that usually were considered minuscule, but now it's like the end of the world. Why? Because again, they're trying to entrap you. Even in those situations, you have to be patient. Because the reality is that if someone is going to discriminate against what you believe in, okay, then somewhere down the line, you may have that business or that corporation may be dealing with a lawsuit because you cannot discriminate against someone's belief. Okay. Regardless of how extreme it may be. Now, we're not as extreme as some may be who call themselves Hebrews or have been called to be or been called to the knowledge of being a Hebrew Israelite, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, to the rest of the world, we are nonetheless just as extreme as the rest. Okay, they don't really know the difference, don't care to know the difference. All right. But there's a few things I wanted to read before we move forward. Okay, to kind of give some insight on how the world views our awakening. Okay. This is for the people around us. This is for the people we work with, the people at the office. Okay. It says here in the book of Isaiah, chapter 59, verse number 14. Okay. Now, for some people who may, again, I have to make reference for those who may be tuning in for the first time. Some of you may be wondering, where are we getting this idea that a Christmas tree is wrong, that it's evil? Where are we getting the idea that Christmas is wrong, that it's evil? I thought Christmas was a celebration of Christ's birthday. I thought this was a biblical Christian-based holiday. Why are we mentioning Easter and all these different things in this conversation concerning standing up against evil? Well, I implore you to go back and watch some of the videos we've done in the past concerning holidays such as Christmas. We have quite a few in which we actually go into the Bible, we go into history, we go into scripture, just dealing with the topic of what God thinks about these holidays. And for the most part, you'll be very surprised. Tonight, I wanted to keep it brief. We have touched on those scriptures a million times. We have millions, or we have quite a few videos. I'm not going to exaggerate and say millions, but we have quite a few videos in which we touch on that particular topic. So again, go back and type in GOCC Christmas, GOCC Thanksgiving, GOCC holidays. 9 times out of 10, something is going to come up on YouTube of us breaking down these holidays according to the Bible. Okay. But getting back to the point, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 50, 59, verse number 14. It says here, "In judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter." Meaning, this is speaking of a time in which truth and equity is no longer valued. Truth and equity is no longer acceptable. In fact, truth and equity have now become hate speech. Okay? Truth and equity have now become someone being, what do they call it? Discriminatory. Okay? This is the type of time that the Bible is speaking of. Now, this is not exclusive to our modern time. In fact, when Isaiah gave this prophecy, he was speaking about a state that befell the children of Israel in ancient times. Yes, there was a time in which we as a nation did not value truth and equity, did not value the spirit of true judgment. Okay? Verse 15 says, "Yea, truth faileth. And he that departed from evil," meaning he that separates from evil, he that separates from iniquity, he that separates from breaking the commandments of God, "maketh himself a prey," meaning he maketh or she maketh himself or herself a target. Hence, for those, again, who have seen that movie They Live, this is what was taking place in that movie. Those who were awakened, those who could now see, had now become targets. Same thing happens when we wake up to this truth. You would think that in a Judeo-Christian society, those who claim to believe in Christ, those who claim to believe in God, those who claim to be celebrating Christmas for the sake of holiness, those who claim to be celebrating Thanksgiving for the sake of holiness and giving and caring and love, you would think they would appreciate the truth of the Bible. They would appreciate the fact that, well, hold up. The Bible doesn't say celebrate Christmas. In fact, the Bible speaks against holidays such as Christmas, but the Bible does give us other holidays such as Passover. The Bible does give us other holidays such as Purim, the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Sabbath. So the Bible doesn't just take away holidays from us and just leave us miserable. The Bible takes away the holidays of this world and replaces them with the holidays of God. You would think those who claim to believe in God would appreciate those things. But instead, the one who comes and says, well, listen, don't celebrate Christmas, celebrate Purim. It's 2 days of gift giving. It's better than Christmas. You would think that person would be accepted with open arms. You know what? Thank you. I'm tired of celebrating Christmas anyway. No, that person is met with adversity. They're met with threats of being thrown out of the house if they decide not to celebrate Christmas this year. They're met with statements such as, either you leave, well, pretty much the ultimatum is, the tree is not going anywhere. In fact, if you try to remove the tree, the only thing that's leaving is you. In other words, people are, a tree has more value during this time of year than human life, where people will willingly throw someone out on the street because they desire not to celebrate Christmas and not to have a tree in their home. Many of you have had these arguments. Many of you have had these discussions. Many of you have been met with these threats. Okay? But realize that before you experience these things, the Bible prophesied it. The Bible told us it would happen. It tells us that truth faileth, and he that departed from evil, who don't want to celebrate the evil, wicked holidays or be a part of any other level of wickedness, becometh a prey. Okay? Or maketh himself a prey. You become a target by everything and everyone around you. Now, it's up to you to exercise wisdom and exercise faith in the Most High in the face of that adversity. It's not up to you to try to fight fire with fire. Okay? When adversity is brought upon you, when temptation is brought upon you, take it cheerfully. Understand that this is what you've been called to. Okay? It goes on to say, and the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. So the Most High is displeased at the fact that people have less value than a Christmas tree. And there's no one to come in with righteous judgment. No one is coming in with sound judgment and sound decision making to say that, hold up, you're willing to throw away your so-called loved one, or the one that you consider to be your loved one, your husband or your wife, before you throw out the Christmas tree. You don't see anything wrong with that? No one is making those types of suggestions or coming forward with judgment to have people consider their ways. This is what happens when truth faileth. Okay? Now, again, as we've been stating throughout the course of this broadcast, after this, we're going to take 2 more calls before we close out for tonight. Okay? For those who have to deal in these situations, okay? It tells us here in the book of St. Matthew, chapter 12. Okay? St. Matthew, chapter 12. And I'm going to start in verse, let me get it here. Make that St. Matthew, chapter 13. Now, when you get the opportunity, for those who are new or those who have not read this in a while, go to Matthew 13 and read about the parable of the sower. Okay? Because believe it or not, this parable of the sower, it relates to some degree, especially around this holiday time, because, of course, around this time, people are coming with certain gestures and suggestions of you celebrating holidays. And during that time, you are planting seeds. You're sowing seeds. You're throwing out the word. You're showing people the origin of the holidays. You're showing people the Christmas tree in the Bible, as Brother Bala spoke so eloquently about earlier. Okay? You're sowing seed. And with that seed, you get different results. Some people hear it, may find it hard to understand or hard to receive. Okay. And then Satan comes and steals what was sown in their heart. They may be trying to consider it, but it may be too much information for them to receive. So Satan comes before they have an opportunity to even go look into it. Satan comes in and puts a stumbling block before them to cause them to not even think about it anymore. Okay. The thought totally leaves their mind. Okay. Christmas tree. You was talking about something, it's in the Bible and God said we shouldn't do it. Oh, hey, 70% off Christmas sale. The seed has been taken. Okay. I'm going to go through this real quick because there's some very good points, especially for this time of year. Okay. I'm going to go to the actual interpretation of what Christ brings forward. I'm going to jump back to a few other things that the Messiah taught us concerning dealing with our people who are still in darkness. Okay. So it says here in the book of St. Matthew, chapter 13, verse number 19, it says, "When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which have received seed by the wayside," which we just spoke of. "But he that receives seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon receive it with joy, or with joy receiveth it." So initially, they hear the word, they hear what you have brought forward, and they receive it with joy. Man, I knew something was wrong with Christmas. Every time this time of year comes around, I get depressed. I knew something was wrong with Thanksgiving. How can you celebrate a holiday which is basically glorifying the destruction and the murder and the slaughter of the Native American Indians? I knew there was something wrong with Thanksgiving. I knew there was something wrong with Easter. How could you celebrate something as silly as a bunny rabbit laying eggs? Doesn't make sense. So they receive it with joy, right? Verse number 21, "Yet he hath not root in himself." So yeah, they're receiving it, they're getting all this information, but they're not going back and they're not studying. They're not grounding themselves in the word. They're not learning certain principles that's going to keep them grounded even in the face of adversity. There's no root, there's no solid foundation. They were just happy to receive new information. It sounds good, feels good. Okay? But they have no root. "But dureth for a while." They'll be around for a while, right? "For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended." Now they're faced with a decision. Family celebrating Thanksgiving this year. It's the only time you get to see Aunt Bessie. We don't know how long our Uncle Charles got before he goes. Okay? Why don't you come over and celebrate this Thanksgiving? Now, remember, this person received the knowledge concerning Thanksgiving with joy. But now they're being actually faced with a decision. They're being faced in a situation where they now have to apply the knowledge that they have learned. And because they have no root, they have no solid ground, their house is built on sand. Now they're faced with that decision. And now, instead of just saying, you know what, let me stand strong, or just admitting that, you know what, I fell short. I celebrated Thanksgiving, or, I celebrated Christmas. I remembered the time, I remember what I felt as a kid celebrating these holidays. I remember what I felt celebrating Christmas as a child and opening up the gifts. I fell short. Instead of just doing that, they go on an all-out assault against the Bible. Man, I don't know about that Bible. How can the Bible be against such a holiday that, it It brings family together. You know, I just love Thanksgiving. Now, keep in mind, this person at one point received the word, or they won't even bring up the thing about Thanksgiving. They'll find another reason to be offended. Okay? It won't have anything to do with the holidays, but that offense is being fueled by their desire to celebrate the holidays. Okay? Something as simple, man. He stepped on my shoes. He looked at me wrong. Man, I can't be here no more. This ain't Christ. And you think, man, I really offended the brother. I really offended the sister. I wish I could have made things right. Not realize it didn't have anything to do with how you looked at them or how you stepped on their shoe. They wanted to celebrate Thanksgiving this year or wanted to celebrate Christmas this year and just needed an excuse. Okay? Because they fell weak. All right? Verse number 22. He also that received seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the world, and he becometh unfruitful. Okay? So those who have not prepared their heart to receive this word, they're still caught up in the cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches, still caught up in wanting to partake in the holidays of the world, just as an example. And because of that, the word gets choked up. The word becomes unfruitful. Verse number 23 says, but he that receives seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth fruit, some in 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Okay? So these are they who hear the word, they get rooted in the word, they study to show themselves approved, they get prepared for the adversity, go through the adversity, go through the ridicule, go through the mockery. But because they endured, those same people that mocked them are now giving them phone calls. Hey, man, what were you saying about that Christmas tree? Man, what were you saying about Thanksgiving? Yeah, show me out the Bible. And now those same people that ridiculed in the past are now being taught. They're partaking in the Sabbath lessons. That right person who they ridiculed 6 years before, sitting right next to him on the Sabbath. Why? Because that person who received it 6 years ago and got ridiculed endured, stood strong, was steadfast. Okay? Understood what they were called to. All right? So these are the different experiences we're going to have within this truth. From those who are initially coming in a few months in to those of us who have years in. Okay? The experiences don't change. It's just how we deal with those experiences that change and also give us different outcomes. Okay? I'm going to take 2 more calls before we close out for tonight. Let me see who we have here. We got Brother Gabar from South Carolina. Brother Gabar, you're live on Blog Talk.
Shalom.
Shalom, my brother. How you doing?
First and foremost, I'm good. How you doing, brother?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful.
All praise to the Most High. First and foremost, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High. I'm looking forward to seeing you, brother, in January. All I wanted to say about this, first and foremost, at my job, Christmas trees everywhere. And, a lady asked me, she's like, are you scared of Christmas trees? I'm like, no, I want to tackle them. That's what I want to do. I see them, but knowing that, I understand that there's certain things that go on when everybody comes together and pretends, I don't want to say pretend, forgive me, that spirit comes across everybody where they're like in this togetherness mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they really aren't, because you can still hear the well, this girl or this guy or anything like that. That demon is still in there, and you could always recognize it. You know, where it's like, well, you're celebrating this holiday, and you could still have that emotional disconnect from somebody. What are you really following? Because that's not what it really is. So being at my job and seeing this, we have this guy at my job. He's everybody calls him the pastor, right? And he's quote unquote a white guy. And they had this Christmas party at the job, right? And I'm sitting there, and my twin brother, he's there and everything like that. We look at each other and we're like, yo, it's time to figure out what we're going to do to hide or disappear from all of this. So he starts praying. Thank you, Father, for us, for you having Jesus at this time. That was it. Me and him got up and we left. Everybody's like, where are you going? We're like, nah, I don't understand how you believe that Christ was born on this day. Well, we don't understand what you mean. I'm like, allow us to go into the scriptures, because you guys claim that you're Christian. And mind you, we have 3 so-called black guys in a department full of quote-unquote white guys, and there's about 50 people total, but only 3 so-called black guys, right? So they're all trying to get to understand it. Why don't you eat pork? Why don't you celebrate certain things with us? And we're like, listen, I love you. And we put that out there. Yo, we love everybody. But if you're going to come from the location of scriptures, we're going to go in the scriptures. So we'll talk that day. We spoke to them and said, listen, okay, you're celebrating Christmas. You believe Christ was born on this day. So we went to Jeremiah 10, verse 1 through 5. They're like, okay, well, what else do you have? Okay, fine. I'm going to show you what else that we have. So we go into Leviticus, talking about the clean and unclean meats and everything like that. Well, that's the Old Testament. This is what they do. This is, and brothers and sisters, understand, this is what they do. This is not something that the elders are just coming up with or anything like that. This is what they do. They'll bring that out. Well, that's the Old Testament. So we say, okay, that is the Old Testament. But Christ, what did he say? As it is written. And I'll say to them, he's saying as it is written. Written where? Obviously, it had to be in the Old Testament to preach to all the brothers and sisters that he was around. He wasn't preaching something different. There was no difference in anything that he was preaching. So, you know, this time of year is a very sacred time of year for people, and I'm not going to take that away from them. I see brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters, and I'm talking about those that are of Israelite persuasion. They do the most decorating out of anybody else. I'm telling you, if y'all could have seen the decorating that went on in my job, it was not, the Gentiles were sitting down answering their phone calls. It was our people that were out there decorating and doing it to the most. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why? So when people come to me based off of the title of this blog talk call, people are like, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all of that. And I'm like, well, I don't celebrate that.
And they're like, well, I apologize. I'm like, don't apologize. You didn't know. Right? We got to be like that. That is the way that we defend the Most High's honor. We can't just be peaceful and say, you know, they'll say Merry Christmas and we say you too. We can't do that. We have to stand on our morals. When they say Merry Christmas, you have to say, I don't celebrate Christmas. That's how we defend the Most High's honor. Because believe it or not, there are those out there that they just say it to say it. And when you say, I don't celebrate Christmas, they'll say, oh, I don't either. And then it sparks a conversation. This is what's been going on for the last 3 days with me. People are like, well, Merry Christmas. I'm like, I don't celebrate Christmas. Well, I don't either. I'm like, then why are you saying that? Don't say it. Don't try to be like everybody else. And then you get into the conversation and they start really explaining why they don't believe in Christmas and things like that. And then you could direct them towards the feeling that they have. It's we're in a time now where people are starting to realize that things aren't what they seem. So if we're passive, they're going to believe that that's what that is. We can't be passive. We have to be not so much aggressive, but like, nah, I don't do that. And it's okay. If you don't, let me say it like this. If somebody says to you, Merry Christmas, and you're like, I don't celebrate that, and that's where it's left at, then that's where it's left at. But if they start asking you questions, you got to be prepared to answer those questions. I've been in this truth for 4 years, and what Elder Lawya is saying is the truth. Every year you grow, you keep growing, and you know how to respond to certain things. It's a learning process. So we have to keep learning as we go on. You get to a certain point, 6, 7 years, and I'm not at 6 or 7 years, but I listen to brothers and sisters that are at 6 and 7 years to where their answers are short and concise and to the point. So you learn while you're growing to be short and concise and to the point. So that's all I had to say, Elder. I appreciate you answering my call and everything, but this time of year, brother, I want to tackle Christmas trees. That's all I want to do. But I know through this truth, we got to be patient with people. We have to be. They don't know. The water, brother.
Thank you, Brother Gabar, for your call. I'll be seeing you, if it be the Lord's will, in January. Those are some great points, brother. I'm going to put you back in the queue. You have a blessed evening. All right?
The water.
All
you
right.
too, brother. Yes, sir.
Shalom. All right. We're going to take one more call before we close out. We have Brother Rawchaa from Nevada. Brother Rawchaa, you're live on Blog Talk.
Hey, Shalom, Elder Rawchaa, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, my brother. How about yourself?
Oh, man, blessed by the best. All praises to the Most High, how about from the study while I walk about. You know, this is a beautiful topic tonight, and the testimonies are very powerful. And it just shows how the Holy Spirit is working. Because I can definitely attest to the testimonies that went forth tonight. You know, this season is real profound, even for my family, because my grandmother came to visit for the first time. And I praise the Most High for her coming. She was embraced by the church out here. And, man, the love that she experienced, that's all she was talking about, even to the point that I got a call from my aunt this morning, just encouraging me with some of the very things that we touched on tonight. And some of the key words that she used, the descriptive words, that because of my consistency in this way of life. It is sown seed, and those seeds are bringing forth fruit. She said that, my wife and I are catalysts for family and love and union and keep doing it. And that really blessed my heart that, you know, at the beginning of my wife and our relationship, this same aunt was, basically like questionable because of the age of my wife and even me exiting the military and things of that nature. But now, because of all that we have suffered there, the Most High brought us through, it is it is propelling the family back to unity. All praises to the Most High. And just going through those things with them. My grandmother being here in the church, I praise the Most High for the church here in Las Vegas. Because the very things my grandmother is saying, the love, the love, the love. And this meant a lot to me. And the reason being, my grandmother, she's up in age. She lives in Florida. And just before this whole season hit, her place where she stayed, the roof caved in and she basically lost a lot of stuff. And when I heard of it and I spoke to her, I could hear in her voice the depression. And it weighed on her to the point to where I discern in the spirit, she feels like giving up on life. And that's when the spirit started working on me to get her out here. And so I spoke with my wife. I said, babe, I want my grandma to come visit. And my wife said, that's fine. Okay. My wife was working and she didn't see it. This was around Halloween time that my wife was working and she did not partake in the Halloween observance. And shortly after that, they let her go. And so everything just started falling into place. I told my wife, don't worry. The Most High is going to take care of us because once my wife got let go, she was at home. So when my grandma came, it was perfect. Like she was there with her. And my grandma just praised her how she worked hard, her example, everything, and it was such a blessing. And so that was the beginning. Then my dad, he called me, he's like, what's your address? And I wasn't thinking nothing of it. I gave it to him. And then he shows up the day before my grandmother was to fly back. She flew back on Christmas Eve. So my dad shows up. So both my dad and my grandmother is here. We had a blessed conversation. All came into agreement about, this time. And so all day yesterday, to my grandmother, she leaves. She has a blessed time. She's talking about it. All day yesterday, my dad and I sit there and we talked about Christmas. And I showed him some of the videos and everything. And he like, man, you opened my eyes to a lot. And I'm like, the Most High doing this because the time is at hand. And, he was just there like, man, just baffled. And so the Most High is really working in the spirit with his people right now because of the way we present this truth to our family, because of how we labor with them and we love on them. And everything, even the call to what the brother was saying just before, people will say Merry Christmas. And all we have to say is respectfully, well, I don't celebrate that, And they're like, oh, well, at least you get the holidays off. Or they'll ask a question. And that's that firmness, too, segueing into the topic of tonight, too. Who will stand up? And that's what the Most High is looking for because we never know. We might be that second or that third witness to say, well, I don't celebrate that. And we have the information to now sow this seed into this soul who's saying this to us, just trying to be polite because it's a thing to do. And so we just have to be bold like that. And so, man, I praise the Most High. And, one more thing, my grandmother, before she left, two things I heard her say out of her own mouth. Well, three. The love that she struck in the church, and she told us, she said, I feel like living now. I feel like fighting. And that was confirmation. And I praise the church out here in Las Vegas for all that's listening to this, to water for the love that she showed my family. She said, I feel like I'm at school again because when I go to work, I work in the afternoons into the night. And so she's there with my wife and there conversing and lessons. She's just sitting there soaking in the lessons. I had the Gathering channel on and she was just like, how can I get this at home on my TV? How can I take this with me? She's like, I want to take these two guys with me. She was speaking to herself in Elder Rawchaa. And I was like, you know what, Grandma? You can. So I put YouTube on her phone. My dad got her his smartphone, created a channel, and locked her into the two channels, GOCC, NYC, and the Gathering. Hit the notification bell so she gets it. And now she's locked in. And the last thing she says, you know what? I will be looking to make this to get back here. So I praise the Most High for that because she's down there in Florida. Everybody's concerned because, the elderly are set in their ways. But she's coming out of that comfort zone and looking to be here. She explained to Elder Rawchaa that she wanted to be in a place where she could grow, and she feels that this is it. Even too, looking to want to be at the Passover coming up. So that,
wow,
all
look
of
at
those
that.
things, I give the Most High thanks for. Yeah, I'm telling you. And the icing on it. So you know, I was in South America, and a couple years back, and my mom almost passed in an accident. And so I've been talking to her ever since I've been back. But I had a good conversation with her this morning, and she is coming along a little bit slower. Well, in the conversation this morning, she said, I don't care about the Christmas. I care about my life. And I said, well, Mom, you know what? That's in our nature to celebrate the feast of life. She said, well, that's what I'll call it. I said, no, Mom, that's what it's called in the Bible. We're going to have a conversation about it because she was heading out to go to work because she has her own business. But the seeds have been planted and the Spirit is working with our people. And I just give the Most High praise for that. So, you know, for those, let's continue to stand firm and stand bold for this truth and continue to be, you know, patient with our people. Because love is patient. And man, the Most High is going to bring them to the fold in His time. So, Tawada for taking my call. Blessed broadcast, Elder. Always a pleasure speaking with you, and let's continue to do this work.
Absolutely, my brother. Thank you for your call. Some great points. A beautiful testimony. I'm going to put you back in the queue, my brother. You have a blessed night, okay?
All right, Elder. Bless you.
Oh, shalom. All right. There you have it. And believe it or not, I mean, this broadcast, I thought we were going to have a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of people being threatened of being thrown out. I mean, there may be some still on the line, but for the sake of time, we may have to carry this over for next week. We know we're coming into so-called New Year. So hopefully some of that, you know, some of these testimonies and some of that holiday spirit may carry over into next week. So we may pick up where we left off. But tonight, there were a lot of wonderful, a lot of beautiful testimonies concerning those who are actually changing lives and giving this light to others around the same time and using this time as a teaching tool to awaken our people. Okay. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for your participation in tonight's broadcast. Until next time, may you all stay strong. May you all stay steadfast. May you all keep the faith. May you stay in prayer. Pray for the sick. Pray for the homeless. Pray for the fatherless. Pray for the widows. Okay. Pray for us as we pray for you. And brothers and sisters, until next time, I say bless you all and shalom.